welcome to, how do you pronounce it? Van Tassel.
Van Tassel. Van Tassel.
Okay.
Yeah.
So welcome to Sabrina Van Tassel, filmmaker, director of the beautiful The State of Texas versus Melissa. This film was presented at Tribeca first time.
Yes.
And then it was selected, has been selected at Raindance, and it's been nominated for Best of. I would like to talk with Sabrina today about her film and the story behind the film. So why don't we start with the beginning? How did everything started? How did you manage to enter a death row? How did you get in touch with Melissa? And mainly, why did you initially believe her? And how did you make her trust you? And how did you make her talk?
Sure. Well, it's an interesting story because I was assigned to do a film about women on death row in 2017 by, a French TV network. And the plan was to interview 4 different women. And Melissa was one of them. I almost did not interview her. And that's the important, interesting part. Because there was just very little that had been said about her, that had been written about her, just very, very little. And I felt that, well, what am I gonna, in terms of footage or in terms of, I really didn't have a lot of things to, to tell about her. But nevertheless, I decided to go to South Texas and meet her family first. And when I met her family, that was the first, the first thing that really raised concern, really. I mean, when I first met them, they said to me, "You're the first person in 13 years who's come to see us. No lawyer has ever acknowledged us or like asked us any questions. No media whatsoever. Nobody. You're the first person in 13 years." So I was like, what, and then they started telling me all these things like, it wasn't Melissa's nature, Melissa was such a sweet, and, she was actually too lenient. She was the kind of person who would never discipline her kids. And yes, she had child protective services, behind her back because she lived in poverty. And basically because she did not monitor her children too much, and then they started telling me about an accident, the little girl fell down the stairs and, would you like us to show you the stairs? So they drove me there and I saw those big stairs and I saw where she lived. And, they started telling me all these things, and then they started telling me that, the DA was in prison, that, the court appointed attorney that Melissa had, had gone work for the DA right after, she was sentenced to death row. I mean, just all these things. And so, I thought my head was going to explode. I was just like, what is this, So now I'm used to, these kind of stories in a way. And, just a family or people, telling me, oh, my sister or my daughter is innocent is not going to, just, fly with me like this,
So cute, yes.
Absolutely. So the next day, I got to meet Melissa. I had authorization to film her 1 hour. And right away when she came out, I mean, we started talking and something happened between us. I mean, we had like this just incredible connection. And I was the first media person ever to interview her. And she was just so honest. I mean, she really did not, I was just like, wow, that really does not, feel like someone who's murdered her daughter. I mean, it's just my instincts, like I was telling you previously how, my instincts really, I work with my instincts a lot in my work, and she spoke so beautifully. She was very eloquent and she was very smart. And I was just like, wow, this is really not, what I was expecting. So right at the end, after like an hour that seemed like 10 minutes, I asked her, I said to her, who's your lawyer? Could you please give me your lawyer's name? And so she gave me her lawyer, her appellate lawyer, and I called her right away and I said, listen, I just spoke to your client, and her story seems very bizarre, and I really feel like there's just much more to that story. I want to meet her family. And I mean, it doesn't seem right. There's something really bizarre in this story. And right away she said to me, she said, listen, I've worked on her case for 12 years now. I can tell you for a fact, she is innocent. We know the little girl had an accident. We know so-and-so, we know everything you're telling us. We know about the DA, we know about, the court-appointed attorney. We even know about the sister, Alex being violent to Mariah. We know everything, and everything's been filed numerous times, and I'm very happy that you're interested in her case, but unfortunately she's going to be executed soon. So I'm afraid, you're kind of coming into the picture a little too late. So I was like, what?
Yeah.
So then she sent me all her files. I mean, she sent me all the CPS, the Child Protective Services, files. They're like, like a couple thousand, pages. Then she sent me, her trial, her entire trial. She sent me everything. And what I did is I just, started reading everything that I could. I mean, I was just like reading, just trying to find just one place, something that would tell me, okay, she's done that before. She's been violent before. There's something about, about her, but there was nothing. And I was just absolutely stunned to discover that a woman is sitting on death row now for 12 years. And not one person, not one of her children has ever seen her being violent towards Mariah. Okay, I mean, I'd like to at least meet or one person, one witness to tell me, okay, I've seen her hit Mariah, but she's never, apparently no one has ever seen her do that. So that's when it started for me. I mean, it was really a case where I remember telling my DP that day, exiting death row, this is going to be the next 3 years of my life. I mean, there is just no way I'm going back to normal life after, I met this woman. There was just something about her case that seemed meant to be like, we had to meet each other. And then plus, also, I mean, what interested, what, apart from the fact that, I felt there was, great injustice and I felt she was innocent. It was what Melissa Lucio represents that interested me. That, you could, that she interested nobody but me. Interested me. I don't know if that makes sense, but the fact that, her story was not gory enough, her story was not, she wasn't important enough. The fact that, she represents everything that, America despises. She's Hispanic and she has way too many children and she lives in poverty and she's a flawed character. She's very imperfect. She's not like, the girl next door, who takes, beautiful care of her children. She's not that person. Okay. But that doesn't make her guilty of what, of what they're accusing her of doing. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes, and it makes me think, because you basically in the documentary, you dig out a lot of dirt about the judicial system. And I'm wondering if anyone has ever stopped you throughout throughout these 3 years of you making a documentary. Has anybody being there to stop you, prevent you from telling this story? I'm wondering if that's something that you have experienced. Because I
have experienced that, but at the same time, at the very beginning, and for months, it was like, oh, why her? Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
you're
I was
doing something
thinking,
about
yeah,
her. Why are you interested about her? I mean, why her? I mean, she's, and I would answer, I would say, why not her? See, that's exactly my point again. It's like, she was someone who was meant to die and whose life has no importance whatsoever. Okay? Because she's poor, because of everything she represents. She's basically, she's just someone that, when you tell the story, you're just like, okay, okay, I know that story. I'm not interested. Okay, so she's just, she's just a loser. Just someone, like let's get rid of Melissa Lucio. Let's get rid
yeah,
of that kind of mom, who's had, a past drug abuse. I mean,
kids,
let's
yeah,
get rid of her.
yeah.
So the original reaction was more, why her? I mean,
Mm.
why would you be interested in telling her story?
Yeah, it's
So
not
that
like what
was
you're saying is not, it's very consistent to what, to the story itself and the way you tell it.
exactly. It's like
Yeah.
I felt almost like, in India, when we're talking about the Untouchables,
Mm.
I felt, that Melissa Lucio and her family were part of, the Untouchables, but people that, that we don't care about, people that we'd rather not see. Okay. And so that was the initial reaction. Or the reaction would be like, oh, wow, Melissa Lucio, that's a name I haven't heard in 10 years or 11 years. I mean, oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, she's still
Or,
alive.
and
Yeah.
then the more because I kept going back there, right? I kept going back to death row and I kept going back to Brownsville. Then at some point, it was kind of like embarrassment. Like, oh, yeah, well, maybe, yes, maybe, we did not investigate that case enough. And also the reactions. I mean, let me tell you a few reactions that really were really surprising. When I would call the police station, the Brownsville police station, I mean, usually you always have, a representative who tells you, hi, yes, of course, we'd love to speak to you, but unfortunately, well, whatever. In that case, no. In that case, every single time I tried to reach out, an investigator that had basically worked on that case, they would hang up on me. It was very brutal. It was very violent. It was like, could you please talk, could we please talk about, the Melissa Lucio case? And it would be like, absolutely not. And they'd hang out,
So in the end, there was some kind of
absolutely. And
shame
also,
when you put them in front of the facts and demand
absolutely.
justice.
Absolutely. The Cameron County prosecutor that you see in the film has hung up on me maybe 10 times. I mean, it was just like, no, 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 no. And the very last time I saw him, I managed to get his interview. Peter Gilman, who is her court-appointed attorney, did not return my phone calls or any of my emails for a year and a half. I just happened by chance to bump into him in front of the, Brownsville courthouse and say to him, Mr. Gilman, Sabrina Van Tassel, I mean, we got to talk, I mean, we got to talk. And he said to me, oh, you caught me. And I'm like, okay, why? Why would you say that, Why would you say that I caught you? It's like, well, it seems like a trick to me. I'm like, why would you feel that way? If you've done nothing wrong, why would you feel tricked? Or why would you feel that, I caught you? So there was all these little things. And then also, it's a very small town. It's a border town. It's very, particular. And the DA has been in prison for 13 years, still has a lot of friends there. So
Wow.
all the people involved in Melissa Lucio's case are still working in, at the Brownsville courthouse. The judge, who, off the record, I've heard that, he actually feels very guilty about the Melissa Lucio case. Okay. Peter Gilman, her court-appointed attorney, the prosecutor. So all these people, still work there. So a lot of them would basically not show up, or, I would feel like I was being observed, with my DP. like, people looking at us or, kind of following us. And at the very last time I was actually in Harlingen, I felt that my hotel room had been visited. And that was my, I felt it. I got in and I was just like, something's not right. I mean, we're being, it's time to go. Let's go.
People are not happy about this.
People are not happy about this. At the very beginning also, you have to understand that I was presenting myself as French TV, which, in Brownsville, Texas, might as well be Uzbekistan TV or, Pakistan TV. I mean, they don't care, right?
So nothing too dangerous.
It's not too dangerous. So at the beginning, they're like, okay, yeah, she's crazy. She's doing something about Melissa Lucio. And then all of a sudden I keep coming back and I guess, and digging. And, basically I interviewed everybody I could. I looked everywhere for answers. I mean, what you see in the film, and that's, I think, is very important to say, is maybe like just, maybe 60% of everything I undigged. I mean, when basically someone says to you in the film, oh, well, I saw Alex do so and so, the sister. I maybe have 10 other people who say that to me. When someone says to you, oh, Peter Gilman, this is the way, he acted, I maybe have, double the people, that you see in the film. I mean, everything that you see in the film, I've had, it's
researched. But did you feel the story was over when you ended the film? And what is the outcome? Are you still in contact with the family? What's happening with?
Oh, absolutely,
Melissa?
absolutely.
Can you tell us a bit of what's happening with her now? Is there any follow-up to the story?
Yes, well, then I'm very much in touch with the family. With her children and her sisters and everybody, and very much in touch with Melissa. I mean, we keep exchanging letters all the time, and with her lawyers. So something incredible happened. So Margaret Schmucker, who is the lawyer that you see in the film, is no longer her lawyer. She's been replaced by another lawyer whose name is Richard Ellis. And he managed to prove that she basically stood there with no defense during her original trial. She had no defense whatsoever, and no experts were allowed to testify that, she had been a victim of, of incest, of when she was a kid, and sexual abuse and all these things. And that was the reason why she acquiesced to the interrogation. Okay. So they were able to prove that in front of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is basically the Texas, Court of Appeals, and they did something incredible, which you see at the film. They reversed her conviction, and that happens in less than 1%, cases. So that was very, very big. The state of Texas, refused that. So they basically appealed the reversal. So now, instead of going in front of 4 judges, they need to go back in front of 16 judges who all need to agree that, yes, she didn't stand a fair trial, and that, therefore, they need to confirm the reversal. If that happens, she will probably get a new trial, or they'll get her a new deal. They might even reverse her conviction, say, you know what, you're no longer on death row. Now you have, you'll spend the rest of your life in prison. They could say that to her. Or they could offer her something that they do very, very often, which I've seen done, in the past, which is no contest. You know what, just say that you did it, sign that piece of paper, we'll get you out, but then we owe you nothing. So it's no contest, we don't lose, but you don't win either,
No, of course not.
So that could be an option. So I have no way of knowing what's going to happen, but, if they reverse it again and basically say, you know what, no, the state of Texas, wins, basically, then she's in deep trouble, because it would be up to the Supreme Court, which accepts like 10% of all the cases that they're, given. And then, if the Supreme Court doesn't take the case, then, she gets an execution date, and then she needs to be pardoned in order to, not face execution. So basically, I mean, her future, I mean, it's going to be hard. They will never accept it. They will never accept that they were wrong. When basically we say, but the DA in her case, okay, is in prison himself. I mean, and it's not the only death row case that, he got involved with, which is very bizarre. I mean, there's, numerous cases which should be revised, because he was just such a horrible man who basically bribed judges and bribed everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, they say, basically the Court of Appeals will say, oh, well, that has nothing to do with the case.
So true injustice.
True injustice. Once you're on death row, your chances of getting out are like almost impossible. I mean, people don't realize that. I mean, it makes me laugh almost when people say, oh, well, if she's innocent, why is she on death row? It's like, when you see that justice system, is just unbelievable, and once you're in, that's it. I mean,
it would be like the system owning up to his own mistakes, and then they are not ready to do that.
Absolutely. A retired judge from the Supreme Court said to me, it's like, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, he's not going to stop until, he gets what he wants, basically the Terminator. I mean, he's like, and that was the image he gave. He's like, once you're against that system, you're done. I mean, she was basically done the moment she refused the deal. They said to her, say you did it, take 30 years. She said no. She was done then.
She didn't do it. Yeah.
And the statistics, if I may just add that, are incredible. Because once you refuse a deal, if you go into the courtroom, and basically, if you have a trial, your chances of losing are 90% in America. And this is the reason why everybody always accepts deals, and that's the reason why there's so many innocent people in prison. Because they're being told that. They're like, accept the deal. Okay, you're innocent, doesn't matter. Just take the deal, because if you don't, the DA's office, they're going to nail you. If they're going to spend money to have, a trial, they will get something bigger on you. And that's the system.
How is Melissa now? How is she coping with this? Because she seemed like a very strong woman in a way. I mean, she doesn't seem like the rebellious type, but she looks like she can endure so much. I mean, if someone less strong probably would have gone crazy.
Absolutely. I mean, Melissa is probably the nicest inmate they ever got. And it's an irony when I say that to you, because she's meant to be among the most dangerous, when you're on death row, you're meant to be among the most dangerous women, ever in the carceral population. But she's probably like the nicest inmate they ever got. I mean, Melissa is very, Melissa just goes with the flow. She just basically, does what she's being told to do. And she's very strong. She did a lot of work on herself in prison. Because, she did see, psychologists, and she did also find, she found faith. I mean, she's really believes, in God now, and that gives her a lot of strength, and she realizes she's done, that her life out there was very, very hard, and that she wasn't the perfect mom she wished she would have been. But Melissa is just incredibly strong in many ways. And I feel that there's just so many, you know, drama. I mean, so much drama that got into her life. Now she's like, just like, you know, she just accepts, you know, everything that is happening to her. I mean, there is a sense of they're very Catholic, you know, in that region, and there is a sense of, well, you know, if that's what, you know,
God's will.
God wants me to endure,
Yeah.
if that's what, you know, if that's my path, then, you know, I'm,
Right.
you know,
So they're
I'm
resigned.
dealing with it. But she's not the type to, I've never received a letter from Melissa where she was completely depressed.
Mm.
She gets depressed when she,
That's
yeah,
what comes out of the film.
yeah,
Like,
she gets depressed when she doesn't hear from her children, or she doesn't hear from her family. Yes, she gets depressed from that. But from her fate, you know, she's made peace with that. She's like, you know, if it's my time to go, it's my time to go.
wow.
But I know that at this point in her life, and especially with, when I say us, I say me, but I say also you, Raindance, who's, you know, selected the film, and like all these people who are watching, you know, the film, and who are, you know, listening to her story. She feels so strong. And, you know, that gives her, you know, so much, you know, strength, knowing that there's people who, you know, believe her, you know, they are believing her, and that are interested in her story. And that's huge for her, because she thought she was nothing.
Does she
Right?
know your film has been selected, that your film is circulating? Does she know about the film being done and
Absolutely.
being shown to people?
Yeah, yeah. One thing that I did when the film was selected at Tribeca is I would send her every single article. And she's like, oh my God, there's these people, they believe me. Oh my God, you know, they're interested in me. There's my name. My name is actually out there for something else than just, you know, I abuse my daughter and I'm this monster, you know. And so she's just very happy about that. And then also the film, thanks to the film, she got reunited with Bobby, and so now Bobby is writing to her almost every day. I mean, you know, so
That's a good thing.
and her lawyers, it's just everything, you know. It's just, imagine that, you know, before the film, even her own family she had no contact with, and now all of a sudden there's
Now
the
she's
family,
getting support. Yeah.
exactly, her children, a new team of lawyers, the press. You know, the film is being released on demand in the US on October 20th, and, you know, I mean, we're you know, into a lot of, you know, law universities and all that throughout the United States, and in virtual cinemas all over the country. So for her, all of this is huge.
Amazing. Yes, there's a positive outcome in this story.
Absolutely.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel. What about you? How did this story make you feel? Because I guess psychologically, going through this story, it's not easy for a filmmaker. I mean, you get so close to these people. How does that? How does that impact you?
At some point, I had to detach myself from that story because it was just too much. At some point, I had her, she had sent me her picture and a little angel that, you know, she bought, and, you know, because she believes that, you know, I was basically sent into her life and I'm an angel. I was like, okay, talk about pressure, you know, and so I had that in my room. And I started getting really down, you know. I mean, I was just really getting depressed because, you know, there's just so much I want to do. I mean, I know her case better than anybody, better than any lawyer, and I can say I have absolutely no problem saying that, you know, I believe absolutely with everything in me that Melissa Lucio is innocent and shouldn't be where she's at. And I really want her out, because I know her children, you know, need her. her grandkids need her. I mean, you know, it's just mind-boggling that she's where she's at. But at some point, you know, I was just going really down. I was just getting really depressed because I was just like, wow, there's, you know, so much I wish I could do, and I've made this film hoping that, you know, the world's gonna take it and be like, oh wow, no, you know, I mean, let's let, you know, and I hope that's what's gonna happen, really. But I also need to accept that maybe it won't, you know, and that's a really hard part. At some point, a friend of mine said to me, okay, just take her picture, take the angels, just take, you know, put everything aside, you know, and just think about the film. That will help you. Don't think about a human being, you know, just think about the film, you know.
It's a story.
And yeah.
How do you let her go? How do you close this chapter and move on to the next one? And what is your next project?
Okay, impossible to move on, okay? So like, I want to make that very clear. It's not like I can, and we've talked about this before. I've done a lot of you know, hardcore films, you know, a lot of films about victims where I need to let them go. And usually I do that very, very easily. I feel that for Melissa, and that's my promise to her, that I will always be there, that we'll always be in touch. You know, I'm always going to be in her life. Me and her, we went, in this time, we went too far, you know, too deep. There's no going back to not knowing each other or not being in touch, you know, with her family, or just no way. So I promised her I would be there until the end. And I really do hope that I can tell you in a year or two from now that, you know what, there's a follow-up to that story, because Melissa's going to have a new trial and she's going to be out, and I'll be the first person to, you know, film her outside, and, you know, and basically just do a follow-up to that story. I mean, if I can, I mean, I would do that, you know, I mean, that would be my greatest joy. But even if that doesn't happen, you know, I'll be in her life until the end. There's no stopping. One also of my projects, we've exchanged like about 150, 200 letters. That's how we communicate. And those letters are so beautiful and are such an incredible testimony from the inside, what it means to be locked up and to be on death row. Because when you're on death row, you're alone 24 hours a day. You are never in contact with another inmate. Even when you're outside an hour, you're alone. So, you know, I mean, and she works she writes beautifully. So one of my project is to release, you know, maybe a book with her letters from Melissa, which would be a follow-up from the film. But if you're talking about new projects, like film projects, aside from Melissa.
This is gonna stay with you for the rest of her life and your life.
Absolutely.
But then there's also other projects that you're working on.
Yeah, absolutely. There are two different topics. One about Indigenous women in the U.S. I've done a few films about them. Native women are subject to rape much more than any other women in the United States. 1 out of 3 Native women will be raped in the course of her life, and are among the most victimized women in America. And so that is definitely something that I've been wanting to do for years now. And another documentary that I've been wanting to do for years. So I'm telling you these two things because I know I will do them both eventually. And the other one is about abortion, which is also a right that has been, you know, taken from us in America. And as we know, everything that happens in the U.S. will affect us one day or another as women. So yeah, I mean, still films that have to do with women, have to do with what it means to be a victim. I mean, you know, my work is about you know, those who don't have a voice, and that's why I do what I do, basically, to give them a voice.
In an amazing way. It's incredible how the story gets to, I mean, it got to us. It really was incredibly touching and moving, and built, and the script was built so well in terms of storytelling. We were discussing about, you were saying you asked questions about the scripts, but it's true that it's very noticeable how you've been working on the script. It's like following a crime story, a thriller. It's extremely well done, and it gets to a point where you're completely taken by the story. This is what really bought us, you know, as a programming team. And I really hope you can go on and do many other stories like this one, and they will be able to watch them and show them to a wider audience as possible, because these stories really deserve to be seen, not only for the character itself, but to the approach to a set of values, you know, that are the right ones to support. So thank you very much for showing your film with us, because it's really an honor to show these stories, and these stories that are told in this way. So
thank you,
Sabrina, and I really hope our path will cross again soon.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
We'll keep in touch. Best of luck with everything. And
Thank you.
Best of luck to Melissa.
Thank you.